You were taught to chase, to please, to shape yourself in order to be accepted. They told you that if you were kind, available, and attentive, she'd naturally fall in love. But the truth, the one nobody has the courage to tell you, is this: that kills desire. She doesn't want a man who begs. She wants a man who is complete. A man who doesn't need her to feel whole. And that's where something few men know comes in. The invisible laws that govern female desire. Laws even women themselves often don't understand, yet follow instinctively. While many think it's all about looks or sweet words, the Stoics already knew. The kind of masculine energy that attracts isn't the one that submits. It's the one that stands firm. And we're not talking about manipulation. We're talking about posture, presence, and essence. Today, you'll learn what most men will never understand. You'll see the hidden mechanics of desire. You'll learn how to escape emotional neediness and step into real leadership. And when that shift happens, she'll feel that something changed in you, without knowing exactly what it was. The first key to understanding all of this is simple, but shocking. Female desire isn't logical, but it absolutely responds to your energy. Let's start there. 1. Female desire isn't logical, but it reacts to masculine energy. Ever noticed how sometimes she pulls closer when you pull away, and pulls away when you lean in? Seems like a confusing game, right? But it's not madness, it's instinct. Female desire, contrary to what most believe, doesn't follow rational patterns. It flows like the tide, guided by emotion, presence, and energy. And this is where a man with inner leadership stands out. He doesn't try to understand with his mind what only makes sense through posture. She doesn't respond to your words, she responds to your vibration. That's where personal power kicks in. The man who knows who he is, who doesn't need to beg for attention, naturally radiates an energy she feels, even if she can't explain it. It's as if she's saying, I don't know what it is about him, but it's there. What she senses is confidence, maturity, and presence that doesn't rely on applause. He doesn't shape himself to her desire, he shapes his own destiny. And ironically, that's what ignites hers. Want a real-life example? Look at the men who say yes to everything she wants. They disappear from her radar pretty quickly. But the guy who keeps his boundaries, who knows what he tolerates and what he doesn't, who doesn't sink into male neediness, he's the one she thinks about for weeks. Female desire is triggered by contrast between accessibility and uncertainty. She craves what she hasn't fully conquered yet. Now don't confuse that with being cold or distant. It's about being unshakable. It's about having virtue, being whole even when she tries to throw you off balance. And yes, she will test. She'll provoke. She'll flirt with the edge. She'll say she's confused. But the man who's anchored doesn't dance to that flute. He chooses his own rhythm. He knows real desire is born out of respect, and respect is earned through posture. And if you think you need to mold yourself to her preferences to be desirable, you may be looking in the wrong place. Female desire doesn't respond to logic, but it always responds to the firmness of a man who knows his self-worth. And there's another layer to all of this, one that very few men recognize. 2. The more you chase her, the more she loses interest, and doesn't even know why. It's strange how many men still believe persistence equals attraction. That the more available they are, the more desirable they'll become. But the truth, even if it stings, is that overavailability usually leads to rejection, not connection. She might not be able to explain it, but she feels it. Something turns off when a man becomes too predictable, too agreeable, too always there. That's when male neediness starts to reek from miles away. A man constantly seeking approval is like a ship with no rudder, pushed around by the winds of validation. That's the issue. If your self-worth depends on someone else's response, you'll never earn lasting respect. You might catch attention for a while, but you'll never hold real desire. Because female desire is fed by selective presence, not constant pressure. Too much suffocates. Balance seduces. What actually works is inner leadership, the kind that doesn't need applause to exist. The man who knows his direction doesn't chase, he is followed. Instead of texting every half hour, he's focused on his path. Instead of decoding every glance, he invests in his mission. And that's where the magic happens. She starts missing him. She starts wondering. She starts chasing. Because he stopped being the desperate hunter and became the man who knows he's worth being pursued. Want a clear example? Compare two men. One is always available, always says, I'm down for whatever, always trying to please. The other? He's grounded in his values, has a strong routine, clear goals, and only makes space when it truly aligns. Who do you think she respects more? Who do you think she desires more intensely? Always the second one. Because he doesn't beg, he chooses. And here's the key. Stopping the chase isn't about playing games. It's about reclaiming your center, rebuilding your personal power, and walking in stoic wisdom. It's about moving from emotional dependency to mature autonomy. And if that surprised you, the next insight goes even deeper into how female desire really works. 3. What ignites female desire isn't looks, it's real masculine presence. Social media and romance movies sell a lie, that what fuels female desire is appearance. Symmetrical face, six-pack, designer clothes. Sure, that might catch her eye, but it won't hold her attention for long. What truly awakens female desire is how a man shows up in the world. The kind of presence he carries when he walks into a room, even without saying a word. And that kind of presence isn't built in the mirror, it's built through self-mastery. You know the type, the guy who speaks little but carries depth. The man who doesn't try to impress, doesn't force jokes, doesn't beg for validation, yet everyone feels him. He may not be the most handsome in the room, but he's got something rare, emotional maturity, inner clarity, and grounded energy. He's not there to please, he's there to be. And that's what makes him magnetic, because female desire is drawn to substance, not just surface. And that kind of presence is forged in your routine. Men who build virtue every day, studying, training, disciplining their minds and bodies, become natural magnets for respect and attraction. Not because they're trying to impress, but because they live with purpose. Want to be more attractive? Read Marcus Aurelius. Lift heavy things. Meditate for 10 minutes. Clean your damn room. A man who lives fully in the present speaks louder than 1,000 compliments. And this isn't about arrogance, it's about being whole. A woman knows when she's in front of a man who doesn't crumble under praise or panic under pressure. He listens without bending. He feels without losing control. This is the unshakable man, commanding respect without raising his voice. He understands the game, but he doesn't gamble his emotions. But what happens when that man starts caring too much about what she thinks? When he begins adjusting himself to match her expectations? That's where things start falling apart. And that's what we're going to unpack next. 4. When you mold yourself to her desires, you stop being desirable. There's one truth every man needs to grasp, fast. The moment you start shaping yourself around what she wants, you start losing the very thing that made her want you in the first place. It sounds contradictory, but it's real. When a man bends too much, tries to meet every expectation, walks on eggshells just to avoid conflict, he drifts from his center. And a man out of alignment loses her genuine respect, even if she won't admit it. Now don't get it twisted. This isn't about being rigid or selfish. It's about staying grounded in your form. A woman desires a man with identity, clear boundaries, vision. Not a chameleon who changes color every time her mood shifts. Her desire is born from contrast, between who she is and who he is. If he becomes an extension of her, he loses the mystery, the strength, the structure. And with that, desire fades. Think about it like this. Imagine a musician who starts creating songs just to please the crowd, abandoning his truth. Sure, he might win applause for a while, but soon he becomes hollow, a shell. Same goes for relationships. A man who lives to please without anchoring himself in self-worth becomes a pale version of who he could be. And let's be real, nothing is more of a turn-off than a man who's abandoned himself. Men who live by stoic wisdom don't bend for approval. They listen, but they don't sell out. They consider, but they don't compromise their soul. That firmness reignites respect and keeps desire alive. What she truly wants is a man who can resist the urge to please. One who can say no when needed, even if it costs a compliment, a kiss, or a night together. And this ability to hold your center is what separates the average from the rare. But there's a deeper test she'll throw your way, one that almost no man sees coming. And that's exactly what's next. 5. Her desire grows when you resist the urge to prove yourself. There's a silent trap that catches a lot of men, the constant need to prove themselves. To show their worth, flex accomplishments, tell stories just to seem more impressive. All of this comes from a quiet fear, the fear of not being enough. But here's the truth, and most never hear this. Female desire doesn't get triggered by justification. It gets triggered by quiet presence. The more a man tries to prove himself, the more he broadcasts the one thing she instinctively pulls away from: insecurity. A man who knows who he is doesn't need to convince anyone. He just lives. And that way of living, grounded and unapologetic, carries a magnetic pull. When a man resists the impulse to impress, he's sending a clear signal. I don't need your approval to feel whole. That's not arrogance, that's maturity. That's knowing that true value doesn't shout. It stands still. Want a real-world example? Instead of telling her you're reading philosophy, just read it. Instead of saying you're changing your life, just change. And when she senses the difference, and trust me, she will, she'll wonder, what's going on with him? The mystery isn't in your words, it's in your consistency. And that mystery is fuel for her desire. Because where there's personal power, there's presence. And presence is what draws her in. That's why the most attractive men aren't the ones doing all the talking. They're the ones building in silence, too busy evolving to explain every move. They don't try to act like unshakable men, they simply are. And that's everything. Because women sense when they're in front of someone solid, someone who doesn't need to be seen to stand tall. And if that shift is powerful, wait until you discover what happens when a man not only resists the urge to impress, but learns to say more by saying less. That's where we go next. 6. Masculine silence triggers desire in a way words never will. There's a nearly mystical power in well-placed silence. And no, I'm not talking about ghosting out of ego or playing games. I'm talking about conscious, strategic silence, the kind that radiates control. A silence that comes from within, from someone who's at peace with his decisions and doesn't need to explain himself all the time. That kind of silence speaks louder than any speech. It communicates unshakable presence. And that, on a deep level, activates her desire. When a man stays quiet at the right moment, he opens the space for mystery to rise. He disrupts the expected. While most guys rush to fix everything with explanations, over-talking, or disguised emotional neediness, the man who knows how to be still creates tension. And not just any silence, the kind that holds weight, intention, and strength. The silence of a man in self-control, not repression. That silence is magnetic. Want to see it in action? Notice the moments when you feel the urge to talk things out, especially when you know she's testing you. Instead, try staying calm. Breathe. Look her in the eye. Say only what needs to be said, no more. Watch what happens. The dynamic shifts. She feels something different. She realizes you're no longer emotionally available for every little drama. That's inner leadership in real time, no flashy quotes required. Of course, this takes practice. Silence can be uncomfortable. It can make you feel like you're losing control. But that's where the gold is. The man who can hold his own silence can hold any storm. He doesn't chase validation, he offers presence. And that shift completely changes how she sees you. Not as someone who needs to be accepted, but as someone who commands respect. And if true silence holds that much power, imagine what happens when a man takes it even further. When he not only controls his words, but also leads his life with unwavering direction. That's the next layer of desire most men never touch. 7. Her desire is natural, but it only grows with masculine direction. As powerful, instinctive, and emotional as female desire is, it needs something very specific to thrive, masculine direction. Without it, no matter how much attraction she feels, it fizzles out. A man who refuses to lead, who waits for her to decide everything, who asks for permission just to exist, becomes dead weight. And desire dies in heaviness. Desire breathes best in lightness with strength. Leading isn't about control, it's about clarity. It's saying through action, I know where I'm going. You're welcome to come along, or not. That kind of posture awakens something primal in her. Trust. A woman surrenders to a man who knows how to guide, not one who's lost in himself. When she sees maturity, purpose, and focus, she softens. And when she softens, she desires. Female desire feeds on emotional stability, not emotional chaos. Want something practical? In a relationship, the man who suggests a restaurant picks the time and makes the plan. He radiates personal power. The one who throws everything back to her out of fear of upsetting her, he radiates uncertainty. Small daily actions shape how she sees you. And when she sees strength and decisiveness, desire grows naturally. But here's the key. That direction has to come from the inside. From a man building his life on virtues, living what he speaks, with firm words and a peaceful heart. A man like that doesn't demand leadership, he inspires it. And that silent inspiration transforms desire into deep admiration. Because deep down, every woman wants a man she can trust blindly, not because she's weak, but because she feels safe. But there's one kind of man who doesn't just lead, he sets her entire soul on fire. And that kind of man, that's who we'll uncover now. 8. The man she truly desires is rare, because he doesn't need her. Here's a hard truth to accept. The man who most deeply awakens a woman's desire is the one who doesn't need her. Not because he's cold, but because he's whole. He already feels complete. He has his mission, his peace, his rhythm, his essence. And when a woman enters his life, she's not his center, she's a bonus. He doesn't live off attention, sweet texts, or external comfort. He lives for something higher, his purpose, his growth, his stoic wisdom. That kind of man radiates power. She feels it even when she doesn't understand it. He's not trying to fill a void, he is the whole damn cup. He doesn't chase validation, he offers stillness. He doesn't cling, he walks. And when she realizes that he doesn't need her, yet still chooses her, the impact hits different. Her desire ignites in response to his freedom. There's nothing more seductive than someone who's free and still stays. That doesn't mean being emotionally numb. Quite the opposite, this man is intense. But his intensity isn't desperate, it's grounded. He gives warmth, but sets boundaries. He listens, but doesn't get manipulated. He loves, but never loses himself. He carries confidence in his eyes and genuine respect in his actions. That energy surrounds him like a force field, and in that space, desire naturally thrives. Want to build this kind of presence? Start small. Keep the promises you make to yourself. Wake up on time. Train. Study. Say no when something violates your values. Cut off draining friendships. Strengthen your routine. Above all, become the kind of man you yourself admire. Because once you become your own role model, you'll never beg for a place in someone else's life again. You'll be the obvious choice. The one with self-worth, who doesn't settle for crumbs. And if you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most men. Because now that you've seen these hidden truths about female desire, it's time to look inward and ask yourself, will you apply this, or let it fade? By now, you already know, female desire doesn't follow logic, it follows your posture. And posture isn't improvised. It's built day after day. So tell me, will you keep trying to be the nice guy who molds and begs? Or will you step into the role of the man she deeply respects and desires? Will you keep erasing yourself? Or will you cultivate virtue, self-mastery, inner leadership, and above all, your self-worth? It's time to act. Time to shift the game. Time to leave neediness behind and step into your presence. Because deep down, she only truly desires the man who doesn't need to be desired. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these truths hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments, and write the phrase, "Nothing can shake my confidence," so I know you're committed to this transformation. And if you've made it this far into the video, you're not just a casual viewer, you're part of this movement. You're one of the few who are ready to wake up. That's why I'm asking you now to take action. Hit that like button. Every like is a signal to the algorithm that truth is being spoken here, truth that needs to spread. It helps awaken other men who are still caught in the same lie you've now broken free from. Be a lighthouse in someone's life. Share this with a friend, a brother, or someone you know is fighting the same silent battle, the one you've just started to rise above. And hey, if this video challenged you, taught you, or helped you see things differently, subscribe and turn on the notifications. This is just the beginning of a much deeper journey, and the next step is yours to take.